Yes.
You're good to go.
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Confident Conversations in Turbulent Times. This is one of my, this is my second most popular requested talk, and I really love unwrapping this. So I want you guys to take notes. And because we are a small group, I have a timer in front of me, so I'll honor your time and complete on time. And feel free to pop questions into chat and to engage in this conversation if there's anything that you'd like to ask. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Well, I think I am. Where's my slide deck? There it is. Yeah, I always have fun with slides. Give me a second here. Me and technology, we've been courting and dating, and the relationship, we haven't married yet, so there might be some kinks in it. We're still deciding if we're going to make this work or not. Why is this? All right, so I'm just going to share where it's telling me to share and then go to the tab. Can you guys see the Confident Conversations? Are you seeing my slide deck?
No.
I think we're seeing your screen. You need to, when you share, you need to pick the application to share.
I know, there it is. That's the Acrobat Adobe wasn't coming up as a choice, so now I did.
There you go.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to see how to make it come up as a choice. Usually does. Interesting. All right, full screen mode. So now that is an example of confidence. Is it showing as a full screen?
Now we're seeing blank.
What is going on?
It was there a minute ago.
I know, that's what's so weird. I'm hitting it, I'm saying share, and there it is.
That's it.
Wow, there it is.
You are.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So
right.
What I am masterful at is I tell people I fail forward fabulously. I don't worry if it works out. I just keep going, because nothing in business, nothing goes the way you think it should. And it's always working in your favor. If you can keep that in the forefront of your mind and allow yourself to not get so upset about conversations, communications, deliverables that don't work out the way you think they would, your life will be so much easier. You just will breeze past, and it allows you to be much more innovative. So having said that, all change requires communication. It's either a conversation with yourself, it's a conversation with someone else, but all change requires communication. So communication is vitally important. And I personally, this is my personal opinion, I believe it's the missing link in humanity. Miscommunication, misinterpretation, misunderstandings seem to be what happens more often than people actually taking the opportunity to step in and have conversations that create good change. So having said that, when people start businesses, this is what they're hoping for. They're hoping for that team environment where people feel heard, or when you go work with someone, you're hoping that you feel heard, or you take a job, you're hoping that, you know, everybody's agreeable. Look at this, the happy workplace. Who doesn't want to work there? I want, like, seriously, like, right? Everybody wants to work here. But often this is where we go. We end up in a room with a bunch of people throwing their hands up because they're frustrated because they're not listening, right? And everybody is wanting things to go their way. One of the things that I want to ask you, does it feel good when when you feel wrong? Does anybody feel good when they feel like they've been wrong?
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. So understand, if you need to be right, that means that you're ensuring that someone else feels wrong. You actually have 100 billion brain cells. It's a fact. Go Google it. You have the capacity to be a genius. You can create a win-win where everyone walks away. Uncomfort is simply growth. Is when people work together, there's always going to be uncomfort. The most successful businesses generally are the most successful business ventures and endeavors. They bring about different people. They do not look for like-minded people. They look for people to challenge what they're doing so they can elevate that. And that all comes through conversation. It comes with communication. So before we go any further, tell you about who I am. So who I am, my name is Nichelle Baker. I am a sales and confidence coach and expert. I have over 25 years of sales experience that started at selling Yellow Pages advertising on the 5 boroughs of New York. I've worked in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, cases in the OR, biotech. I got a master's. I was a comptroller at a manufacturing plant, and I've had my own business. My father and my grandfather are entrepreneurs. So it's in my lifeblood. And the thing that I've been taught more than anything is about leaving people better off in everything I do in conversation and communication. The desire to be right does not exist in me, right? That's ego. When you truly want to increase the value of which your output so that you can receive more back in the form of money, you will cease in attempting to be right and look more at how can I be valuable to this enterprise that I'm engaged in. So what I do is I speak. Vision boarding is how I started, and I did that because I was trying to figure out how to get my mind clear, and I created a process that became wildly popular, and I still do it. And it's really 1 out of 5 entrepreneurs actually who are the more successful have a vision. You cannot create an incredible business or incredible outcome without visioning first. And I'll talk about that. And I always put a picture of my sister here because my heart is in what I do. I left corporate America to be my sister's caregiver. And I stumbled into entrepreneurialism by getting invited to a women's networking meeting and found and discovered it's been my lifeblood ever since. So when you do what you love, it will increase your ability to communicate better because you're looking at elevating people instead of trying to get something. So the first question I asked you was, who likes to feel wrong? Nobody. And I'm like, who likes it when somebody's trying to get something from them? Nobody. So when you're valuable, you're giving. When you think about how can I leave this person better off when I'm communicating with them, you will stop trying to be right. So asking myself when I'm feeling that uncomfort is one of those tricks that you can start to do in your head. Remember, 100 billion brain cells, just ask yourself the question, and you'll be amazed at what'll pop up. Now, how do we communicate? This is one of the things that when you are creating confident conversation, understand that every human being communicates this way. This is why I ask people to turn on their Zoom, because it helps me to give you more value when I can actually see your posture, your eye contact, see you taking notes. It lets me know, okay, they're getting this. This is meaningful to them. Keep going. 55% body language, 38% tonality, and 7% words. So one of the little notes, side notes I tell people here, stop getting mad about text and emails and messages and comments on Facebook. It's only 7%. Ask a follow-up question for clarity. Next time you get an email that makes you hot, ask a follow-up question for clarity. Next time you get a text, it's only 7% of the words that you're acquiring when people are writing. So when you're on the phone, then tonality becomes 85%. The math changes a little bit. That's why we tell people to smile and dial. Stand up when you make a phone call. That's going to be difficult, right? And your body language and posture, your tonality, your body language and posture are yours to control. And it takes practice before you can control them in the moment when you're feeling, when you're having feelings of discomfort. So having said that, what does this mean and what is confident communication? So taking into account everything I've told you, it's a buildup. And the way we build up to that confident conversation is we think about, one, we want to think about the rapport. We want to think about the certainty we're creating. So what happens is generally people start talking to somebody about what they want. Like I would approach Maggie because we had said we were going to do a project. And as soon as I start talking to Maggie, hey, Maggie, how you doing? Yeah. So Maggie, you know, that project that we're going to work on, I was wondering how far, right? So I just hit her. Right. So if it wasn't on the forefront of her mind, if it wasn't important, if she has a lot of things going on, it feels like a physical affront for somebody to do that. Right. I give people the example. My own mother, because I was a caregiver for my sister and I still have documentation that my mother needs to call me about. She would call me and I go, hey, Ma. And she go, hey, you know that thing? And she would just start talking to me about stuff for my sister. And I was just like, why is this bothering me? So I actually finally told her, I said, can you just act like you like me and just say, hey, how you doing, daughter? before you ask me for something. Right? And she was like, and I'm like, seriously, it matters to me. And it was a giggle, but she didn't realize, because she knew me, that it was necessary to establish a certain standard of communicating. And when you can create a standard of how you engage with people, it changes everything. Even when I'm responding to emails, it's always, I hope this email finds you well. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope you've had a great holiday. Then I go into anything I'm talking about, establishing. So next is, we're going to go through these 5 steps. Why does confident conversation matter? A vision is not a picture, just a picture of what could be. It's an appeal to your better self, a call to become something better. So the reason you're communicating with someone is you want something. So it's, what is it you want in your head? People start off many conversations thinking this is going to be difficult because the last time it was going to be difficult. This is going to be hard because somebody told me this person was a difficult person. They're going to say no to me, right? Most people think worst case scenario instead of best case scenario. Instead of thinking this is going to be an awesome conversation, I'm here, what I have is valuable for this person. They're going to be stoked, and it doesn't matter what the outcome is. If you don't start with an idea of that in yourself, of the certainty that conversation is going to be amazing, whatever you seed in your mind is what you're going to harvest at the end of that conversation. So the certainty, everything is possible. Start in that space that communicate the purpose of the meeting. Why am I calling you? Right? Why am I talking to you? And this is, when I'm saying communication, this is actually talking to people. So yeah, start with the certainty of the meeting. Remind people, hey, the last time we talked, this is, and as humans, we're so busy, we tend to forget that this is necessary, that that person has been doing a bunch of things throughout their day. They have a bunch of things running through their mind, and it's vitally important that you establish the certainty to communicate the purpose of the meeting, right? Communicate, sorry, the other way, the desired outcome of the meeting. So I'm so glad that you guys took the time to come on this webinar. And the desired outcome is that when you leave here, you'll have some tools and tips that will be incredible, and you'll be able to up-level your conversation, and people are going to be like, oh my God, who are you? You're awesome. I want to talk to you more, right? That. And when you create your own standard, like I tell people my standard, and people are like, why do people love you so much? They don't even say like me. Why do people love you so much? My standard is, as soon as I meet someone, I look for something to compliment them on. People don't get appreciated enough. So have a little standard that's yours and yours alone, that you establish certainty, that people get grounded in the desire to connect with you, that they are their body, their eyes, they are dialed in, and know that anytime they talk to you, that outcome is going to be amazing. If you can create that standard for yourself, people won't even care why you call or what you call for. They just know that when I call Maggie, when Maggie's number pops up on my phone, I got to answer because it's going to be good. Right? And that is absolutely possible, but nobody has taught us this, right? So it's introduce and welcome. When you have a meeting, welcome the attendees, right? So give people a chance to, and so like right now, I'll stop and we'll get a chance. So everybody tell us your name, the name of your business, where you're located, the name of your business, and what brings you here today. So, and I waited for this exactly. So I'll let you guys go around.
Well, thank you. I'll start if you guys don't mind. So my name is Maggie Harrison, and I'm the president of a small private school called Casada Catholic High School in Fort Worth. And we're a non-traditional school, non-traditional high school for everyone.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go next. I don't know if you guys can see my profile picture, but I do not look good today. I look good every day, but just not as good today. So my name's Jessie Bolton. I started an IT recruiting agency a couple years ago, and I'm just looking to get past a my stopping points. I love communicating. I love people, but it's just been I freeze up and I overthink it because I want to be, I just want to make sure my delivery is on point. I feel like I'm self-aware, but I have the confidence, but this is going to help me. I already feel it. I'm so excited.
Yay! You're going to rock it out.
Thank you, Michelle.
I guess I'll go next. My name is JR. I'm a personal trainer over at Mindset Fitness and Yoga in East Fort Worth. Just wanted to soak in all of this and tap into the Confident Conversations workshop just for the sole purpose of enhancing my ability to effectively communicate with clientele, especially in the fitness industry. I think there's a lot of I guess cultural as well as stigmas present. So as a person that is selling fitness, I think it's very important to be able to effectively communicate with people, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty. So.
Yes, absolutely. And fitness is one of those touchy areas. I use that as an example when the work I do for helping people to get habits, right? You know, it's really touchy. And so being able to approach people in a way where they feel good about something that has made them feel bad,
right,
is powerful. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so as you guys have met me, and Bill, Bill, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a SCORE volunteer in Austin. Been doing this for about 5 years. And before that, ran a small business for 40 years.
Nice. Well, thank you. And I'm a fan of SCORE. So if you guys are tuning in, SCORE is a great place to go and tip your toe and connect with mentors. You can select them specific, or you can get them in your area. I actually send any client that I'm working with who has desire for business to a pre-recorded one-page business plan, because that's the vision of a business. If you're creating a business, you must have a business plan. So having said that, I'll keep going. So introduce. Now, if you know you have a large group, sometimes you might say, I'm going to take the first 10 people, 60 seconds each. So be willing to let people feel engaged, because that will create the certainty of, and they start to hear why people are here, and it helps to relax them to know, okay, because there's generally someone of similar mind that's at the meeting, and it helps people feel good and more engaged and more likely to share or participate when they can hear why other people are there. And always review the agenda and timelines. I look to see if there's a meeting note taker, because I'm verbose. I'm a chatty Cathy. And so notes, I just like to give. So I ask somebody to take notes, or many times when I'm doing presentations for companies, part of my package is that I have a producer. So I have someone who can actually take notes for me when I'm doing corporate events. So just know that establishing certainty is the first step. And then everybody will be like, oh, okay, it creates a release when people know why they're there. And the next step is, so who is here and why are you here? This is credibility. If people like you, they listen, but if they trust you, they'll work with you. So knowing why you're there. We know we're in a marketplace where everybody's throwing up a shingle claiming that they are the expert. So this is, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. There's no way around this. And when you stay in the space of doing business with people you know, like, and trust, referring people you know, like, and trust, people you validated and vetted and verified, your life will get so much easier. Follow the prompting of inside of you. If it doesn't smell or look right, it's not right. Most of our regrets are because we second guess that first thought. Having said that, creating a safe space is what the credibility does. It begins to let people know that you just didn't randomly put up an event or invite me somewhere, and now I've got all these people who are going to be talking off of what they think are mights or maybes. You actually have a credible group of people here, and we're going to create the vision of what was stated before when I established the certainty. Identify and address any challenges and prior difficulties early on. If this meeting is to deal with something that didn't happen or should have happened, or or some challenge that has transpired that is the reason it's called, say it. Be clear about it. And you don't want to belabor the challenge. You want to say the reason we are here is because this was brought to light and I've gathered everyone here, or we've gathered here so we can create and whatever that positive, desirable outcome is. But always identify and address, because if you don't, they're thinking about it and they're not paying attention to you. They're sitting there going, I wonder if that person's going to talk about this. So making it crystal clear, and this is for one-on-one relationships as well. In the workplace, you can use this in this standard. You can use this in the relationships with, family and friends. My family, this is the standard of how I talk to people and how I engage with people all the time. I just made it my standard and my life has gotten wonderful. Having said that, again, briefly introduce the leaders. And so this is the part where if there's anybody that's going to be facilitating or the keynotes or whatever, you want to kind of highlight them, right? Based off of why we're here, these people have been brought in, as you've heard them, if they haven't been introduced, but you heard the introduction, this is the reason why they are here. And again, that's set that intro time. And then define the challenge and problem. Create an understanding for what must be done, increases your successful outcomes. So we have about the next 30 minutes. Remember, you had the agenda as we talked about. We're going to pull this apart and we're going to come back together and put it together. The goal is to get it done. If it doesn't get done, we may need to have a next meeting. Or if this is a series, the goal is that we're not going to do it all today. We want to just start today. And then what we'll do is we'll, give ourselves something to think about as we come back. So be willing to define the challenge and the problem and create an understanding of, and so that gives credibility. So many times I've gotten on and people get up and start going, well, I thought this would be a good idea and it's not clear. When I don't hear clarity, I'm ready to leave. I want to bolt, because without the credibility and clarity, that for these first two steps, it tells me that we have a direction. Without the direction, what are you doing? Where are you going? Right? You can't get to B if nobody knows where B is. You can't get to B if you don't even know where A is. So having those 2 points are powerful, and it gives people that space to feel it's safe, and they're more likely to share. They're more likely to engage. They're more likely to be vulnerable. But it won't happen when you just get up and you just start a meeting. And I know that happens sometimes because people are nervous, right? It's their first time in a leadership position. It's first time. You're always enough. You're always ready. You're always prepared. They don't know you're nervous until you tell them you're nervous. One of the things I like starting off when I'm sorry. Every time you say sorry, you kill your credibility. If you walked in the room and you're the leader, everybody's looking at you as the leader. You keep saying, I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm sorry, this didn't work. I'm sorry, this. You know what? It just starts to go down. You just say, hey, life doesn't go the way we think it is. I'll get it up. Let me work on it. Technology kicks in. You just stay in that state that I am here to serve you. Things happen. Does that make sense to everybody? And does anyone have any questions? All right, moving to the next step. So, just to finish this one up, are we communicating to establish connection? The goal is to provide inspiring information that moves people to action. So one of the things about creating this space in the room for people is you're inspiring them, you're invoking into them in their mind. When you try to convince somebody by talking at them and telling them what to do, that's all about you. You have the ability to inspire and ignite the 100 billion brain cells in the people that are attending, in the people that you're talking to. And when you create a clear path to communicate, they are now engaged and involved, and they start to come up with ideas as well. And together you guys collaborate and co-create. That won't happen if you're talking at them and if you haven't given them the space to envision the possibility of creating something better. Did that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Next one is establish rapport. So rapport is powerful. Knowing that you are welcoming somebody, they feel good about being there. Sometimes people will do things like when you introduce yourself, if it's a group of people that you plan to be working with for a long period of time, tell me one fun fact about you, right? One of the games I like to play when I'm doing workshops is 2 truths and 1 lie, right? With people who work together. So tell people 2 truths and 1 lie. So you can tell people 3 facts. One of them has to be a lie that you don't think your colleagues would guess, and then they get to pick and vote on it. Right. And that's always fun, and make it a fun fact. And that way the people are engaging and they start to find out all these interesting facts. But establishing rapport is powerful because, again, people who feel appreciated will always do more. And the greatest way to appreciate someone is to, one, actively listen to them before cutting them off. And I think we have some chats here. Hold on. Let me see. Yes. No, okay. I got it. It's just confirmation. All right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no. I'm just double checking to see if there was a question. Okay. So, oops. So actively listen and allow the other person to finish speaking. The most powerful communicators and influencers, when someone finished speaking, they pause. If someone starts talking immediately after the other person is finished, they have not listened. Your mind it goes through a cycle. So I know when someone jumps in as soon as I finish, I almost don't want to listen to what they so it's like, oh, okay, I don't know if they heard me, right? And when you actively and you allow people to finish and you ask a follow-up question. It's a tip that I'm adding in here that's not here. When you ask somebody a follow-up question after or verify. So if I heard what you said correctly, right? When you do that, it lets them know they've been heard. Most of our planet hasn't been heard. This is why TikTok has the number of people on it, because people want to be seen and they want to be heard. They want someone to pay attention to them. Our whole planet is screaming, look at me, look at me. And when you're that person who can do that, I do a lot of sales and confidence coaching. And I tell people in sales, the rule of thumb is the person who's talking the most is the one being sold. For life, right? So if you think about it, if I'm communicating with someone, my desire is that they take action to do a certain outcome. So I'm actually selling them something. If I'm doing the most talking, I'm the one being sold, not them. When I'm listening, when someone else is listening, it's powerful, and trusting that they have something to say, give them a voice. If you've brought them there, let them have a voice. Now, there are some people who keep talking and talking and talking. And for the sake of time, you might want to gently, right? But that's not always the case. But they're generally, if you have a meeting with more than like a half a dozen people, you're going to get that talker. Be empathetic and assume the best from all parties. Sometimes people will say things that, and this is, there's a book, it's called, I just blanked, the four agreements. Assume the best from everyone is the number one rule. We tend to assume, right? When you thought about that's why I said what I said about the text. I see so many people get mad over text or messaging or comments. They assume the worst. Assume the best. When you assume the best, and that maybe they just didn't say it in a way that you needed to hear it, your mind will actually cycle through how to respond to them appropriately and elevate that communication, versus when I think the worst, I'm actually taking that conversation downhill fast. Assume the best. If the desire is for an outcome that you believe will be valuable to everyone involved, always assume the best, no matter what someone else said or did. Right? As long as they have not physically assaulted you, always assume the best. I literally get excited when people get mad and frustrated, because it's easy to be confident in this person that I am when everything is going well. My challenge and my opportunity to grow in the way I communicate comes when someone's frustrated or overwhelmed or confused, that I can get them back to clarity. I have 100 billion brain cells. I invest in myself all the time. They haven't. So I have the power to get them, to influence them and get them back to that space of why we're here. It's not an accident that we're here. There's 8 billion people on the planet at this point, and I got 6 people in a room. what are the astronomical chances that all these people will be in a room working on something together? You must start understanding that there is so much power in who you are as you show up with the intent to be valuable to people. That it's not just you two people in a room, that there's something greater that has caused this actual engagement to transpire. So when you assume the best, you're invoking in so much more that comes about to create the best. So having said that, stay conscious of your body language and tonality. Sometimes you'll find yourself like, as I'm listening to people, I can feel my face, because I smile most of the time because it's just what I do. Like, one, I was told it was a facelift, so I figured I didn't have to pay for a plastic surgeon. So I just started smiling when I was in my 20s, and it's worked out quite well because I am 55.
Go, girl, you look good.
So
I like it.
And it's that gift that I give to the world. When you smile at the world, what does the world do back to you? Smile. Yeah. And so it creates safety. People feel comfortable. People feel approached. I'm approachable. As someone, this is the work I do. So, and it could be the worst day. You would never know, because my automatic deflect is I know that if whatever emotion I have, my energy will follow. So having said that, be conscious of your body language, your posture. Before I walk into a room, if I'm networking, before I go to present, before I go to lead, I actually play a song. I get my physical body in state before I walk in. I prepare myself. If you look at any great artist, any great athlete, any great musician, they have something that they do before they go on the field, right? And I tell people don't understand that celebrities, athletes, and artists are paid to practice. The performance is one day. What they get all that money for is all the hours of practice that prepares them to do that concert, to play in that game, to belt out that song at the highest notes. You want the highest level of outcomes in your life, prepare before. Start running into meetings all disheveled and wanting people, or jumping on the Zoom calls last minute. Put space in your calendar so that when you show up, that person gets everything they deserve and more. And I'm telling you, you will start to have raving fans like you've never had before. We live in a society that people are back to back to back, running around all this. Time is yours. You are the creator of your time. That's a whole nother class I teach. So having said that, eliminate statements and ask better and follow-up questions. Seek to understand, not to be right. I talked about that earlier. So instead of when you're starting to feel like the room is going or the conversation is going out of order, our mind wants us to, like, that person's wrong. I can't believe they did that. We generally start to get frustrated in our mind. And the better way to go is like, okay, evidently this communication is not as clear as I thought it was. How can I wrangle people back to the clarity? And I will quickly say, when I've been in meetings, and even if I'm not the leader and I see things are going off and they're derailing and the gates have opened and the wild horses are free, and I'll just hold my energy until I can get a moment in there and go, I'm curious, is the outcome of this meeting, if I heard everyone say correctly, this is why we're here and the desired outcome is this, and I'm kind of lost in what's going on right now. And I just stop talking. And whoever's leading it will generally say, thank you. Thank you for bringing it back, and then they'll wrangle it back in. So you can help people at any moment because remember, when you're dealing with a bunch of humans, a bunch of emotions, a bunch of expectations, a bunch of when people come into the room, they don't just bring themselves, they bring all of their problems, all of their desires, right? So as the leader and the person wanting, you're going to need to work to keep that. And when you can establish that standard that no matter what, I'm keeping people moving along so we can create that desired outcome, that's when you become an incredible influencer and communicator and sought after as well. So the next one, is there a unified understanding? So those who know, do, those who understand, teach. So that was for the last one. And you make certain that you're keeping people in the understanding. So again, the steps are certainty, their credibility, and their rapport. Rapport means that I've made certain that everyone understands why we're here. They feel good about why we're here. Establish outcomes. So, and it seems like this might be early on, but when you can intermingle some of these, but when you kind of go through this process and just create your own cadence of how you keep people on track to move them towards the, during the actual work. And this don't take long. I'm doing this and it's taken an hour and a half, but when you actually have it as a standard, it takes you less and less time. For me to go through this with an individual or a group of people, it generally only takes me anywhere from 5, tops 15 minutes. If I'm talking to one person, 3 to 5 minutes. It's just a process in my head that I know. And I've actually realized that sometimes I've leapfrogged and I'll go, oh, I apologize. You know what? I didn't establish rapport with you. How are you doing? Before we go any further, I didn't ask you how you're doing. As soon as my mind lets me know that I've missed a step, I will stop and go back and grab that step and I'll acknowledge to that person, I apologize. I usually establish rapport with anyone before I start working with them. And I've been a little rushed today. You don't deserve that. And I would just love to dial it back. Let me hear how you've been doing. You know how much people appreciate that? That's vulnerability. That's me. And, that's in, if you've ever heard Brene Brown talk about vulnerability and empathy, they are powerful assets that many people will like to just glaze over because they don't want to feel wrong, right? Once I realized I did not engage in something that's important and as a standard, it's just a prompting to do it. Doesn't mean that I'm supposed to take that on as shaming myself of, oh my God, I can't believe, oh, thank you for the reminder, and engage in it immediately. You're constantly being prompted to do things like when you keys or you forgot something, you get promptings all day long that will help you deliver amazing outcomes. Start to engage in those promptings as like the universe working on your behalf. God, universe, divine, Buddha, Allah, God, whatever you want to call your source of higher power or whatever that you call it, it's working on your behalf. Start engaging it. So outcomes. What is the common vision or goal? So you're restating this. You're always restating this throughout the meeting, because when you're working with people you've never worked with before, or you're starting something new, this is going to get derailed so fast. So as many times as possible, if you can put it up on the whiteboard, if you handed it out and it's on the cover of the sheet, but restating and reminding people, and every time you meet with them, restart with this in mind. The people who create the most powerful companies, movements, endeavors in life stay on the target of the vision, right? When you look at Nike, that business has changed. Look at Coca-Cola. It has changed over the years, right? I'm trying to think of Red Cross, but their vision of who and how they wanted to serve has never changed, right? McDonald's, who and how their vision, the way the company looks, it might have changed outside, but what that initial vision and goal was, the vision statement may have changed, but what they originally set out to create and how they set out to engage. And believe it or not, when you're having a meeting, you have that level of power to communicate this and what you're doing. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Is this making sense? And is this helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Leave ample, sorry, I'll just leave these up. Leave ample time for all parties to speak their mind, express their desired outcomes. So when you're talking about the outcomes, you want to ask people who are going to be participating in the work with you what they thought the outcome was, or how do they feel about this, or right, get their opinions, be flexible and willing to adapt as needed. And this is, if it's your business and your outcome, yes, I think of it like this. When I bring on board and outsource people or have people to work with me, I'm looking for their 100 billion brain cells to marry with mine, because now we got 200 billion working, right? So even though this is what my desired outcome, I always look to see what other people's ideas, their insights, their imagination, right? And I loved, and establishing rapport allows people to feel comfortable and vulnerable to make suggestions. And I have yet to work with anyone who I didn't do that with, who did not deliver something that was wonderful to my business and to my life. But when I tell people to do and I want it done this way and it has to be my way, I have never gotten an idea from that person that was helpful. So when you're thinking about creating these outcomes, that's why it's so important to leave and have some flexibility in what you're doing, because you will always end up with more, exceedingly more than you anticipate from working with people once they feel like they are part of the outcome. Make sense? Define roles and be as specific as possible. If you're working on a project and you need people to do their things, make certain that it's clear what their role is and what their deliverable is, and an understanding of what needs to be done. Because that's important, because if they're not clear, they're not going to do it. They're going to say, yeah. You know how many people have said yes to you and turned around and didn't do it? We've all had that happen, right? So making certain they're clear is incredibly, and the better understanding it's increased success. Again, clarity is power. There's so much, right? And then what happens is inside of us, we're just happy that someone said yes. Right? So even if you create a little checklist for yourself in your meetings to check off, okay, I've done this, I've done that, and tell people, you know what? I actually went to this training and I'm really wanting this meeting to be amazing. And so I got a checklist to ensure that everybody's engaged, everybody's having fun, and everybody's clear. So you might see me look down a couple of times, and that's because I want this to be valuable to everybody here. Does that sound good? Who's going to say no to that? Right? And you just follow your checklist. So giving yourself permission to let people know that it's not just about me being here leading you, telling you to do something, but I'm actually here to create something, whatever that is. If I'm sitting there, right, you know, like with your trainer, right, telling the person that you're working with, right, I'm here for you. And because it's for you, it's vitally important to me that you feel comfortable telling me if it doesn't work, if I said something that made you feel uncomfortable, or, you know, because if you don't feel good about coming here with me, you're not going to come back. You're just going to disappear. And I'm gonna wonder what happened to you. And this is what I love to do. I've helped so many people transform their body, their mindset around health and wellness, and then their body followed. And I want you to have that experience. So just, can you make the commitment that if I ever say anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you'll tell me, and I'll just adjust how I say it so it can feel good to you. So this whole experience will feel good to you. Did that make sense? And that's like how I talk to people, how I talk to my clients when I'm working with people. I make them understand that I wake up every morning and I know I'm a blessing. I jump out of my bed. Well, sometimes I don't jump out. Honest, I stayed up late last night, so it wasn't a jump. It was kind of a drag, but I have a ritual that gets me spry pretty quick, right? And it gets me to this state. So by the time I show up, I have a routine in the morning that is 2.5 to 3 hours before I ever talk to another human. So by the time I get on the calls and do things like this, I'm already jacked. So one, anything you say does not hurt me, because I've reinforced myself to know that I'm here to serve, and I'm here to serve fabulously. And two, I'm here to serve. So I don't have an ego that makes me think that I have to be right. I can adjust and I can sense because remember, 55% of how we communicate is physiology. So I can read the physiology of someone who's uncomfortable, of someone who's disengaging. So I'm willing to pause and say, what can just let me stop, because I want to make certain this is valuable. So instead of saying, hey, you don't look like you're paying attention, right, which never works out, right? Hey, you know what? Let me slow down. I tend to get really excited, and I probably had too much coffee today. Is this working for you, or do we need a break? Because I really want you, the reason I'm here is for you, and I want you to get the most of this. What can I do to help you to get the most? And I stop, because if it's all about them, then being available to them is the most important thing. Did that make sense to everyone? So you're willing, again, vulnerability and empathy. If you haven't read Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, powerful, powerful book. Where am I? Next one. So the quote here is, what are the next steps? What are the next steps moving towards solutions? If you're not a part of the solution, guess what you're a part of? the problem. So, and why I believe this is so important is one of the things that we forget is that we're here, our soul. So we are, and this might be woo woo, but it's true. Okay. The science basically says that energy can only be positive or negative, right? Our soul is energy. So that means we can only be positive and negative. We are always calibrating in either direction. So solution is positive, problem is negative. We have that experience in ourselves. So if you're not part of one, you are part of the other. And when you can begin to communicate and set the standard of how, even when I walk in a store, if I go to Starbucks, they have a name tag. Hey, Susan, how is your day going? Great. Oh, awesome. Okay, can I have a, venti latte with an extra shot, no foam, 4 equals. Been drinking it for 4 years. I know it by heart, right? So, but everywhere I go, if I'm in Target, if I'm HEB, hey, if I'm in Applebee's, not so much now because of COVID, and if you have a name tag, I will say your name. If your name tag's not showing, hey, your name tag's not showing, I'd love to say your name, right? The favorite word for every human being is, in every language, is their name. If you're doing meetings, name tags, people forget that nowadays. Go get those little stickies. The labels, doesn't have to be, just get something and stick it on people, right? And let people show their name. It's a powerful gift. I attend networking events. When I used to attend all the time, I carried name tags in my bag because I went to so many networking events and the people didn't have name tags. And I was like, hey, one of the tricks, and this is what I do for a living, I have some name tags. Would you like to use them? People would get so jazzed. And then they would come to me after the event and go, oh my God, that was one of the best events we had. Because people could say people's names. Just a little thing. So this is the final step, is confirmation. Confirming next steps. What have we decided and what are we committing to? This is everything. Like, you've gone through all of this, people walk out, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what's coming. Restating the expectation of what's going to be delivered, who's going to do what. This is powerful. This is where you get to readjust and where you get to clarify misunderstandings, right? Because so many times people have meetings and they don't do this step, and then they come back the next time and people haven't done what they said they're going to do, right? I do this when I'm talking, even my mom, like, because of my sister. So her and I have gotten really clear, because I run a business and she needs me to do something. She's clear, like, so, you're going to get that to me by noon today. Yep, mommy, thank you for restating. You need it by noon today. Because if you had not said that when I hung up, I'd have went on. And then at noon today, you'd have been sending me angry text, right? So I'm telling you, it is so powerful. If you have kids, so what did you hear me say? Right? Still doesn't mean they're going to do it, but it's a great way to start recommitting to people. So when are we meeting next? If necessary, create a regularly scheduled meeting, and that makes things easy. Using automation here is huge. If you are doing meeting with people and you do it online, I have an automatic calendar. It saves so much time. The back and forth and tag an email and texting of what to do next, I'm done with it. Here's a link to my calendar. Schedule something that works for you. It saves time. And then again, restate confirmation. Clearly define who's delivering what. This is vitally important. So if you're working with someone, if you're a trainer and you have an expectation that the next time I meet with this person and they will have done these many workouts, or they have worked on their meal plan, this is what the next steps, the change work, you can name it what you want. So if this is the clarity of when we get back the next time, when I talk to you the next time, the expectation is this is what I'm doing and this is what you're doing. Is everybody clear and okay with that? And when I tell people at this point, and when the deliverables due, sometimes the deliverables due before the next meeting, or there is not a next meeting and there's just a deliverable. So clarify that for everyone. Getting in writing, if you can follow it up with an email or a text just to seal the deal, that's also powerful. I know it's a lot of little steps, but it makes it, the communication, people will want and tend to work with you better. Also, this is where I having people when they're not clear to and when I instead of me saying what the deliverable is, I ask them to tell me what did you hear me say and what are you expecting to deliver, so they can say it in their words. Because if I say it in my words, that's one thing, but if they say it in their words, then you know they've confirmed with certainty that they understand, and it gives you a chance again to re-engage. Does anybody have any questions?
I had one quick question, Michelle.
Yeah.
If you didn't mind. This goes back to your earlier point about listening to understand rather than listening to be correct or right. So how do you navigate the perspective of, like, who's to say that some people out there don't think that, okay, for me to be understood, I have to be right. Not maybe that cutthroat, maybe, but like just kind of if you can go into further detail of how to kind of tap into that perspective from someone and how to kind of work around that.
So, and thank you. That's, ooh, had those a lot of those experiences. So if you could give me an example to kind of just prime my mind, because it's been a while since I've been in that engagement, but yes, I
Right.
totally
I mean,
feel that.
Right, most definitely. And I guess the best way I could describe it to you is if I make myself the subject. So I know times before when I've been communicating to, let's say, like my girlfriend or something, I guess definitely from what we've spoken about before in the workshop, you know, it goes to your tone and how you say things. But I just think sometimes I myself have a little bit of a challenge with kind of maybe making my point a little bit too known, or I'm not exactly sure how to word it, but if I'm not sure if I'm being a little ambiguous or whatnot.
No, you're not.
I just try to drive my point a little bit too, okay, I'll say aggressively, where it comes off as I'm trying to really push myself to be correct, but when that isn't really the case. So how would you say would be the best, most efficient way to kind of get over that?
Thank you. And I don't know if you hear my tone. I'm a very excited, passionate person.
Most
And right
definitely.
now, my coach, she says, when you're making a point, Michelle, take your voice down. So that's one of the things I have speaking coaching right now, because it just comes like it literally the download, modulating it is not something I ever knew to do. I just, right. And I'm, like I said, I wake up and I'm like a jackrabbit squirrel hybrid almost all day long. So yes, understanding. So having said that, learning how to speak to people the way. So one of the rules of thumbs I teach people is that we've been taught the golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated. That's selfish. Why would Michelle treat Maggie or Bill or Jesse the way Michelle wants to be treated? Do any of y'all even look like me? Why would I treat y'all the way I want to be treated? That's absolutely selfish, and it makes me act one way. The platinum rule is treat people the way they want to be treated. The only way I can treat you the way you want to be treated is I must ask you questions and I must get to know you. That's the standard of how I work. So having said that, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes trying to get to know a whole nother person who has a whole different set of 100 billion brain cells. They've had a whole life of different experiences, disappointments, overwhelms, hopes, dreams, desires. My expectation that I get it right is I don't even do that. My only goal is to be better every time I engage with you. And when I get it wrong, I will tell you. I can tell by the way you stand there. I can tell by your tonality. I can tell that I've gotten it wrong. And because my desire is not to be right, I am quick to apologize. I apologize. My only goal is that we walk away better from each other every time we engage. And obviously, I didn't do a good job right now. I will say that so fast to anyone. In a meeting, in business, in personal, my ego does not need to be right anymore. And that's the work that I do when I'm working with people on confidence. Confidence is internal, and confidence means that in any circumstance, situation, or person, you feel like you are enough. What happens is most people don't feel like they're enough, so their feelings are easily hurt. They're wearing them on the outside instead of on the inside. And that's why the vision of what the desired outcome for anything must be clear. If it's a relationship, and most people get in a relationship and they're dating, their boyfriend. I done lived and shacked up with people and we didn't know what we was doing and we were arguing all the time. Trust me, I've been there. I want to get married. He just happy, right? That he's sleeping next to somebody. I'm looking for a ring. He's like, oh dear God, right? So I have been there and I've learned. Now I'm very clear. And if that person can't take the clarity, they're not my person. That's the willingness to understand. If they can't take the clarity, they're not your client, they're not your spouse, right? It's okay. It's okay. It allows you to be better at you when you cease attempt to shove your square peg into a round hole and instead just create value and just allow the people who want the valuable version of you to exist as you. Did that make sense and was that helpful?
Yes, ma'am. Very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been through all of these. Yeah. Yeah, trust me, there's bodies behind me. I didn't get to this state of communicating confidently without taking out a bunch of people on the way. There's people who would say, no, she's not a nice person, right? Trust me. This is a work in process. So your willingness to know that each and every day in every way, you're getting better and better. That's all you can do. The only person you're competing with is the version of you yesterday. When you can make growth your habit, life gets a lot easier because then you're more willing to have grace and patience that, oh, okay, not the way I would have liked it to go. So like, remember I said about the athletes and the celebrities and what they're masterful at is playing the game tape. Oh, that concert didn't go the way I wanted it to. Oh, I didn't catch that touchdown. Oh, I didn't make that layup. Let me go back and look and see how I can perform better the next time. Us regular people spend time beating ourselves up instead of going back and saying, how can I perform better the next time? Make sense? And I always love athleticism as especially with business, because this is the desired outcome, right? That we're all looking for these outcomes. And when you can just create the habit of being the best version of you in any setting, that's when you make the layup. That's when you hit the high note. That's when you catch the touchdown, because you're just in the moment of being my best in every moment, instead of trying to get the result for later in the now. Does that make sense? So seek to be your standard to be the habit of being a top performer, no matter where you are, for whatever you're doing and how you're communicating, and you'll always get the result, right? And it goes back to weight loss is my example. The weight loss industry is $1 trillion industry because they're not teaching health. If they taught healthy habits, they would have ceased to exist decades ago, because the generations would have taught their kids and their children's children's and their children's children's healthy habits. Weight loss is not health, right? So it's the same thing. Once you get the habit, you'll always get the result. And that result will actually benefit everyone else that's around you as well. That's what happens when you get a strong habit in communication, because other people are going to want to engage with you. They're going to ask you questions, going to say, oh my God, people always love to talk to you. People always say great things about you. And I get to have more conversation and give people these tips, right? Because it's a habit and a standard. Does that make sense? So, oh, wrong way. So to go back, certainty and why you're there, credibility of who is there, if it's you, if it's the people you've brought in, who are the key players, who are the people around the table, the credibility, if it's me and it's just one other person, why we've come together, why I believe we're together. Sometimes I'll get on calls with people, I don't know why we're here. I'm just like the person I recommended that I talk to you and I trust them and they're like the same thing. And so then we just start talking about what our background is, what we do, and all of a sudden a spark happens. And then it's the credibility of the trust of that other person. So sometimes it just happens in rapport. Well, how was your day, or what brings you here, or what is the interesting fact about you, which will spark, and then the outcomes. always engage in remembering what is the reason we are having this conversation. Am I trying to get you to take out the trash? Right? So if the outcome is I'm trying to get you to see my way, that's generally not a good outcome. That's about the other person, right? Instead of what I'd love is, this is what I'm thinking when in this situation. I'd love to know what you're thinking, and how can we create something to coexist, right? That's a better outcome. That's the win-win. And that's when you're invoking in the creativity of the 100 billion brain cells, and you're really wanting to elevate business, humanity, relationships, is when you're willing to co-create something that doesn't exist. And the confirmation of, this is how we're going to do it going forward. If this is only one meeting, this is what we're going to bring back at the next meeting. This is the standard or the cadence. So you're confirming the key players, what they're going to deliver and how we're going to behave, and the willingness to understand. When I end meetings, I always say, you know what, we've done all of this. This has been amazing. I'm so glad you're here. And it still doesn't mean we're going to get it right. So as you walk away, take grace and patience, make them your arm in arm, make them your best friend, and know, as long as you've done your best, that's all you can ever do. And if you get it wrong, just be willing to, when people confirm that they're going to do something at this point, my request is, I thank everybody for your commitment. Now, the only thing I ask is, at any point you realize you're unable to keep your commitment, then come to me and tell me how that you can't keep it, and how that commitment that you've promised is going to resolve. So you committed to make that resolution. So, because what'll happen is people will just disappear. So give them the room to come back and tell you that they need to recommit or make changes or edify, because otherwise you'll get people to disappear. So let them know that, just come and let's just talk, we can talk it through, right? So the last thing to wrap this up is just to remember, embrace fear. You must leave the comfort to create. Anytime you're communicating with another person, you're creating a whole nother you're creating something that doesn't exist, and it's going to be uncomfortable. You're two different human beings that have brought, and this is even in the workplace. Nobody talks about the fact that how nervous people are on a whole. Like, remember, the number one fear is not dying, it's public speaking. Right? So anytime somebody sits in a meeting around a table with a group of people and it's for a meeting, that's actually the equivalent of public speaking. Right? Anytime somebody's talking to somebody they don't know, that's public speaking. Right? So it's the number one fear. So when you can create a space where people feel comfortable, and you will get more people to engage, and the creativity of your outcomes will elevate. Experience uncertainty to forge collaboration. Again, the most successful people aren't smarter than anyone. They have mastered the skill of adapting in the face of uncomfort, uncertainty, and inconvenience. Uncomfort, uncertainty, and inconvenience. Successful people will adapt, leverage, flex. I tell people my nickname is Gumby, if you guys remember, right? I will always, like, I'm a cat, I will always land on my feet. I get excited when things don't go my way, because when it goes my way, I'm awesome every day anyway. But when it doesn't go my way, I get to now create. I get to help people. I get to really like bring out my tool belt and show you all the goodness that I don't normally get to use. The 100 billion brain cells get to spark, and smoke starts coming off my head, right? I love when stuff doesn't work out. That's when I shine. Right? You don't know what you're capable of until you say yes to the fear. False evidence appearing real. It's there to tell you that something amazing, but we have conditioned, because quick fact, our brain is reptilian, and for some reason we have all this technology that is advanced, but our cerebral, our cortex of our brain hasn't. It still thinks that fear means that we need to go back to the cave. We still have this reptilian brain that makes us believe that fear it means safety is necessary. And what I'm here to tell you is that you don't have to forage in the forest for food anymore. So fear actually means, it's just telling you you're leaving the comfort zone. And when you start to decide that fear means excitement, because physiologically in your body, if you've ever been on a roller coaster, fear and excitement show up in your physiology the same. Shows up exactly the same. Tingling, armpits, palpitations, heart, all of it's the same. You have decided what it is, but by the story you're telling yourself. So when you start telling yourself repeatedly, okay, this is a good thing. All right, fear is my friend. This is good. Something good is about to happen. When you start telling yourself, you will start to believe it and you'll be amazed at what starts to happen. Everything is working in my favor. Business never goes the way it's supposed to go. Everything's working in my favor. So fear is my friend, right? Little statements like that, if you can repeat them over and over again, you'll be amazed at what starts to happen, right? Establish a non-negotiable standard of communicating. My standard of communicating, everybody who talks to Michelle is better off for having spoken to me, period. I do not get to opt out if you're having a bad day. I don't even get to opt out if you cuss me out. As long as you don't lay your hands on me, I will find a way, right? I have 100 billion brain cells. I'm a genius. And it's easy to be nice to people when they're nice. For me, the challenge and the gift is I believe that this is possible. I believe this is the standard of how humans are meant to communicate with each other. And I get to show up there. I get to ask you questions like, oh my God, you seem like you're having a really bad day. How can I help you? I'm having a fabulous day and I'd love to give some of this to you because I know what it feels like to have a bad day. How can I be valuable to you? How can I help you? What do you need? I love to do that for people because they're not expecting that. They're expecting someone to brush them off, to meet them at that mean level. They're not expecting me. And I love that. So create a non-negotiable standard of communicating and it will change your life and it will attract more opportunity to you as well. And I've had people who've watched me do that and I've gotten opportunity from the watchers because somebody's always watching, right? So engage in regular acts of gratitude and appreciation. Remember, most people rarely feel appreciated. Most people are running around because they're talking about what they have to, need to, ought to, should. So they're doing, right? Without appreciation. So when you can regularly be grateful to people and appreciate them, say thank you, let people know how much it meant to you, let them know that you see them, game changing. Right? Remember, when people know what it feels like for somebody to get something from them, most people rarely know what it feels like to consistently be given something. So when you become the giver, it changes the world for you and for other people. So, and the one thing is have fun, right? You don't have to be perfect. When your desire is to leave people feeling valuable and they know that, even if you mess up, even if you have a slide, you've been to presentations where a person messes up and they start freaking out and panicking, then you start feeling uncomfortable, right? And you've been to the ones where someone messed up and they start telling jokes and they just start like self-deprecate, like, and then they got back on track and it was awesome. And you like, they got even a bigger applause because they engaged you. So have fun. Right? And when you start to understand that life is what you make it, and when you start making more, it's a game, and you start playing the game of how can I make this fun? How can I make this valuable? How can I leave them better off? Instead of going, oh, this sucks, I can't believe, right? Remember, you get to tell the story of your communication, your engagement with other people, your business, how you do business. You're telling the story all day long. You want a better life? Tell a better story. Does that make sense? And we are done. That's the last slide.
Thank you, Michelle.
Unity, it's just that, me.
That was good.
Thank
That
you.
was great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Hearts, and you guys can tell I wear my heart on my sleeve. Everything I do is in love. Like I tell people, I tell my clients I love them. Think about it, the most beautiful things created in this world are created from somebody's love of what they believe they can create. Right? So, I mean, even Apple, like he loved computers, right? So you got to understand Bill Gates, they love what they were creating and they gave this gift to the world, right? When you're listening to a musician that's at the top of their game, when you're watching app, they sleep, live and breathe and eat it. They love it. That's why they practice so much. That's why they get coaches. That's why they do it, because they want to be at the top of that performance. It's all they are. So when you are engaging in what you do, find something you love about it that lights you up, because when you light up, everyone outside of you gets to experience that light, and it makes it so much easier to do your work.
I agree. And I think it's also the passion. When you're passionate like you are about something, your communication is going to be delivered. I mean, the way you communicate is your passion is going to shine through, and it's going to be a little bit more effortless, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you deliver that well.
Yeah. And that's why I do this, because I just see so much angst, and believe it or not, I work for, my father owned a construction business, and I work with him, and he's like the meanest man you could ever used to want to work for. When I was growing up, he was awful to employees. We used to flip a coin to see who had to tell him something went wrong.
Oh, that sounds like my dad. Yeah.
He's not that way anymore, because he, gotten older and settled in, right? But we can with the jokes. And so my thought was, so being raised in that environment, right, being condemned and all of that, all I wanted to do was, and I remember, all I wanted to feel was appreciated. So I've turned that into what I give, and it's the underpinning and the undertoning. And that became my mantra for like over 2 decades now. My rule is, you will always be better off for having met me. Now, am I perfect? No, right? I have bad days. And when I find that I've had them, I course correct, I apologize. And I tell people, if you meet me and I've had a bad day, right? Because I get angry, hungry, lonely, everything happens to me too. Like, if you tell me before you tell anyone else, and I will correct. Now, if you tell someone before you tell me, that's gossip, and I don't know what to do for you then.
Mm-hmm. Right? And what I see, the common denominator across the board is the power of the mind, and then a humble approach versus ego-driven. Yep.
Yes, and we are heading back in business. You're starting to hear, it's called conscious capitalism or social enterprise. You're starting to see, because there's so much clamoring in the marketplace for get clients and all of that. And seeing that, even, I'm like, why would you get anybody? Nobody likes to be got, right?
Oh, no. I attended a national one, a recruiting webinar, and they talked a lot about automating and how, moving faster and metrics and getting more ROI. And I thought they still have it wrong. They still have it wrong. And the reason why I went on my own is because the metrics, I don't want to rush someone off the phone. I want them to matter and know that I actually really care about what they have to say, and that the whole emotional intelligence and just learning to understand people, and just like us, we want to be understood, and yeah, I don't want to go preach, but you did it right. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you guys have any comments? Maggie, you've been a little quiet, and I'm so awesome that nobody popped in. You got
Thank you. This was really, really great. And I have pages of notes. I think what particularly stood out for me was when you talked about, when you're in a leadership position, right? Be comfortable, be confident, and don't ever apologize. And I guess my personality and previous work experience, I've been in this leadership position for about 2 years, and I'm still learning. But I am by nature the kind of person who doesn't necessarily want to be around people, doesn't necessarily want to be in meetings. And so for me, I know that it's hard for me to find that stance of confidence, even though sometimes I know many times I know what needs to be done. I know, but I tend to be the person who apologizes. So I think that was a very important kernel for me, just to have more introspection about that, that it's, to become a more effective leader, right? In that way. And also, and another thing, if I can say, when that establishing rapport, just connecting with people on a level, and that, go and check in with them, what it is that makes them uncomfortable, how do they want to be treated. And I think particularly with my team that I have, everyone is so different. Everyone is so, we're all over the map, in terms of personalities, likes, characters, experience. And it is, I found myself having meetings when I will be talking to people, and and I'm thinking, well, we're all speaking the same language and it's straightforward. It's just a procedure. And someone will say, well, I hear what you're saying. I was listening and I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand what you're saying. And that realization that, yes, people, we might all be speaking the same language, but what you said, words, right? Just try a different way. Ask them for, what it is that they need clarification with, right? So thank you. This is truly awesome. Thank you.
Yay. See, that makes my day when I know I'm valuable, when I know that people are going to go to meetings and rock it out and their team is going to be like, who is this person? You're just awesomer. You're already awesome, but now you're awesomer. And I apologize. I keep looking at mindset team. So your name has just like flew out. It's up here in the sphere of one of these little puffs.
No problem. My name is JR.
That's it, JR.
Yes, ma'am. 2 letters.
So and I know you had asked about the one-on-one relationship. Where there was anything that was helpful, because I know you're doing the training and things like that, and working, and so you work with people at the organization as well as your clients.
Correct.
So this has been helpful.
More specifically, we actually specialize and work with clients with multiple sclerosis, degenerative neuro disease, autoimmune disease as well. So we kind of have to when it comes to being a trainer, we more so focus on the personality as well, to be able to kind of, pretty much everything that you touched base on today, being able to empathize, being able to, treat others the way they would like to be treated. We kind of already are tailored towards that kind of attitude towards the clients that we work with anyway. So this was just really helpful as far as putting pen to paper a little bit and just having it, communicated so well by you and presented to us in a good way. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. This is, and again, in the work you guys do, remember, it's the humans, right? The business is people. I know, and Jesse mentioned it. There's so many people that talk about ROI and that's why I did this, right? Like, it's the relationship. It's not just about getting more clients. And what I have found, and I'll tell you guys, as we wrap this up, I work with so many different people. The clients that I work with, it's about creating that confidence in who they are, how they approach people, that your clients will do the work for you. When you create raving fan, when people, they statistics show that 86% of clients who have an incredible service will rave. They will go tell people immediately, sometimes before they even make the purchase, when they believe in you. So, and the way you create that is through how you treat them, how they feel appreciated from, the first touch point through the last touch point. So, and that means that they're heard, they're communicated with, it's clear, right? Ambiguity is yeah. So. Yeah. So
Very good.
I'll turn it over to Bill. So if there's no other.
You did great. My wife will appreciate this if I take some of this to heart. I'm frequently accused of having to be right. Usually I am, but that's beside the point.
I think Jay got a jump.
Anybody else have anything they would like to offer, or we're going to say goodbye now?
Yeah, and I will. I think, Bill, you captured everyone's email, so I'll follow up with you all. For our opportunity, if you want to engage with me, if you have teams, I do this work outside of here and, do virtual meetings, but this is, I have so much fun with this, and I love to see people evolve in creating, the happy human workplaces is what I call them, was what I love to help people create.
Excellent. Very good. Very good advice.
Thank you.
Say goodbye for the afternoon. Thanks again, Michelle.
Yes, you're welcome.
I did send you emails with email addresses, so you'll be able to contact everybody.
All right.
Follow up.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Care.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Y'all too. Bye-bye.